So recently I was on Discord, and there was a brother who reached out to me who's about 22 years old, and he asked me for advice regarding being attached to a relationship that is essentially no more. And the girl that he was involved with did ask for them to cut ties and no more communication. He is respecting that boundary, however, it does still essentially bother him. He thinks about it a lot, and it does affect his mood and his emotions right now. So I did want to say, brother, I empathize with you. I know over the course of my life there have been a few relationships where I got involved with somebody when it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to. I spent a lot of time after the fact thinking about it, replaying scenarios in my head, creating ones that maybe, we might get back together one day. And all this did was ultimately prolong my suffering, right? And so what we have to do in this case is recognize that, our emotions are valid, right? It's okay to feel hurt when a relationship goes bad, especially when you thought that this was going to be the one. You have some time invested, but a lot of times the suffering that happens after the fact is because we had these expectations that ultimately didn't play out the way we thought they would, right? And so we have to really kind of center ourselves when we're thinking too much in the past or too much in the future, and just ultimately focus on what is. And the fact that she did say that she didn't want any further communication, while it does hurt, this is what it is essentially, right? The fake scenarios that come up in the mind is not what's actually going on. What's presently going on is that this girl does not want to have a romantic relationship, and we have to just respect that, right? So what can we do now when our mind is still focused too much on it? Well, I do like the analysis or the analogy that our mind is like a computer algorithm, like YouTube think, right? When we say we're watching a video on YouTube and we input such and such, and the algorithm feeds us videos it thinks we might like, right? It's the same thing with our mind. Whenever we keep entertaining the notion about this partner in the past and we keep focused on it and we put our attention into that, the mind is just thinking, okay, this is what he's interested in, so let me keep feeding him those type of thoughts. But you have to recognize that you can separate yourself from the mind and what it's thinking, right? Even though it may sound like you, even though you might identify with it, the way you do end the suffering is distance yourself further away from that identification, essentially, right? And so what we have to do is, one, I would suggest trying out some meditation, because when you can become aware and see what your mind is doing, you can choose in meditation not to identify with these thoughts and not to identify with these emotions that you may feel. Meditation is a really good practice to help you separate from those emotions, because when you're trying to just sit still and your mind feeds you these thoughts, you can say, okay, I'm trying to just sit still right now. Let me push that thought away off to the side, right? I don't have to identify with that. And the more you just practice doing this with this intention, right, eventually your algorithm in your mind will change. And so if you keep catching yourself right when it happens, say, I'm not trying to think about this person anymore, and you tell yourself that, you tell your mind that, and put focus on, say, things you need to do, things you need to focus on in your life to elevate, then your mind will start reprogramming itself and not giving you so much of the thoughts and things that's causing you suffering right now. So that's one thing I would definitely recommend, trying out meditation, and then also journaling. Journaling definitely helps. Write your thoughts, write your emotions down, and leave it on the page, and then just say, this is some things that I've experienced. Writing it down can help me process what went on, and ask yourself what you learned from the situation, because everybody does come into your life for a reason. And I can look at my past relationships, the good ones and the bad ones, and see that it was all supposed to happen the way that it did. The bad relationships did help me make my way essentially to the good ones, because I learned a lot about myself and what I need in a relationship, what I don't need in a relationship. Those bad relationships still gave me that experience, right? So they weren't really a bad thing, because I still learned from them. And so I hope that you can take this relationship experience that didn't work out and say, okay, I'm grateful for what this experience taught me, and I'm going to move forward, not thinking about it, not letting it ruin my day, ruin the rest of my life. I'm going to take the lessons and then just apply them to the next relationship that hopefully will be better than before, right? Any mistakes you made in this last relationship, you don't go repeating. And if you can do that, brother, then I think you'll find ultimately that everything worked out the way that it was just supposed to. So I hope that helps with you fighting your attachment to a relationship that is no more. Accept the present for what it is. Work to enjoy the present and do the things that you need to in your life right now to elevate. And when the right person is supposed to come along, the next relationship will flourish. Then you'll see that it's ultimately all a part of a divine plan, right? So I hope that brings value. I hope that made sense to anybody that needs to hear it, and to the gentleman that reached out. And I hope that you all are having a great week. And until next time, take care of yourselves, and we will talk soon.